Hello. Today General Hospital will reveal as summer fades and the leaves begin to turn. The world of General Hospital is only heating up, pulling its audience into a season that promises more drama, betrayal, and unexpected revelations than ever before. Longtime viewers of the ABC soap know that each season has its own rhythm, its own set of climaxes carefully arranged to build tension and release in measured waves. But this autumn stands out as particularly explosive. Not only does it weave together returning faces once believed to be gone, but it also pushes fragile relationships toward collapse and places some of the most powerful characters into confrontations where neither love nor loyalty can shield them from the fallout. This is not simply another chapter in Port Charles, it is the beginning of a reckoning that will shake every corner of the canvas. At the very heart of the upcoming months lies the long brewing climax at the Five Poppies resort. For weeks, fans have held their breath as Jocelyn, Jax, and Vaughn endured a harrowing captivity in a setting meant for leisure but transformed into a prison. The claustrophobic suspense has mounted with each passing day, and the question has always lingered: how could this nightmare possibly end? The answer, it seems, will come through Britt Westburn, a woman torn between survival and the choices that may define her forever. A single phone call so deceptively ordinary may become the spark that changes everything, creating the pathway for Jason Morgan's dramatic return. If Jason answers that call, it will not only mark the re-entry of one of the show's most iconic figures but also ignite a cascade of events that will ensnare Britt and those around her in a storm that cannot be controlled. The possibility of Jason returning as a savior injects an entirely new dynamic into the narrative. His presence has always been synonymous with resilience, silent strength, and an unwavering sense of loyalty, and those qualities will once again be tested. Jason stepping into the chaos of the resort is more than a rescue mission, it is a symbolic act that signals the convergence of past and present. For Britt, the weight of her history with Jason will collide with the peril of the moment, forcing her to navigate both emotional and physical danger. For Jocelyn, the promise of deliverance comes hand in hand with the trauma of being held hostage, an ordeal that will leave scars long after the doors of Five Poppies are closed. For Vaughn, a character still carving his place in the tapestry of Port Charles, survival itself could determine whether he becomes a fleeting memory or a figure with newfound significance. But the Five Poppies arc is not merely about rescue, it is about exposure. It is about revealing who orchestrated the horror, who profited from the fear, and who will pay the ultimate price. The show has teased a mysterious ally of Jen Sidwell, a shadowy figure whose identity may unravel everything the characters thought they knew. The shocking twist of Ryan Paevey's return adds fuel to this speculation. Whether he reprises Nathan West or embodies a dangerous imposter, his involvement will tether the entire storyline to Britt's emotional core. If Nathan truly returns from the dead, Britt's world will fracture under the impossible collision of love, grief, and deception. If it is an imposter, perhaps even Peter August in disguise, the betrayal cuts even deeper, weaponizing Britt's most intimate vulnerabilities against her. This is the kind of storytelling General Hospital excels at: layered, unpredictable, and deeply personal. By situating Britt at the crossroads of choice and fate, the writers ensure that her decisions will reverberate across Port Charles. The phone in her hand is not just a lifeline for Jocelyn and Vaughn, it is a metaphor for the power of action in moments of paralysis, a reminder that even the smallest decision can alter destinies. Jason's potential reappearance, set against the claustrophobic nightmare of the resort, is not simply a heroic rescue, it is a narrative detonation. One that will send shockwaves through the show long after the immediate danger passes. And this is only the beginning. The end of summer may mark a seasonal transition in the real world, but in General Hospital, autumn is set to unleash a torrent of revelations. Fans can expect the unraveling of secrets, the testing of alliances, and the reemergence of figures once thought lost. The Five Poppies climax is merely the spark. The true fire will spread through Port Charles, touching everyone from Britt and Jason to Drew, Sunny, Nina, Carly, and beyond. Each storyline will interlace with another, creating a web where no one is safe from suspicion, betrayal, or consequence. The fall season of General Hospital is shaping up to be one of the most explosive in recent memory. And at the center of its beating heart lies a mystery that has already stirred the imaginations of viewers across the globe: the return of Ryan Paevey. Ever since the first whispers of his comeback began circulating, fans have debated whether he would once again step into the role of Nathan West or if the show would take a darker, more twisted turn by having him return as a deceiver cloaked in Nathan's likeness. This uncertainty, this deliberate clouding of the truth, is what makes his reappearance so compelling. The stakes are immense regardless of the path the writers take. If Nathan is indeed alive, the shockwaves will reverberate through Port Charles, most immediately in the life of Britt Westburn. Nathan's resurrection would end years of mourning and healing, unraveling the emotional scaffolding Britt has painstakingly built to survive the grief of losing him. Every relationship she has formed in his absence, every step she has taken forward, would suddenly be thrown into question. How does one reconcile the life they've lived in the shadow of loss when the person they lost walks back into the room? Britt would be forced to confront not just her love for Nathan, but the anger at being left to suffer in silence, the guilt of moving on, and the impossible choice of whether to trust in a miracle or fear manipulation. The alternative, however, may prove even more devastating. Should Pavey return not as Nathan but as an imposter Samine wearing his face as a weapon, the emotional carnage would be staggering. To look into the eyes of the man she loved and realize they belonged to a fraud would be cruelty of the highest order, a wound deeper than death itself. The deception would exploit Britt's greatest vulnerability, her heart. It would leave her doubting not only the stranger before her but also her own ability to discern truth from lies. And if this impostor is revealed as the mysterious associate of Jen Sidwell, then Britt's private torment would no longer be hers alone. It would become a cornerstone of a much larger conspiracy gripping Port Charles. In that moment, her grief and her fight for survival would merge into a single crucible, testing her strength in ways she has never endured before. Adding yet another layer to this tangled web is the looming specter of Peter August. Though believed to have met his end, Peter has proven time and again his knack for returning from the brink, each time with a more sinister plan than before. The theory that Peter could be masquerading as Nathan is chilling not only because of its audacity but because of the psychological devastation it would inflict. For Britt, the realization that Peter had manipulated her love for Nathan, using her most cherished memories as weapons, would be an attack unlike any other. It would strip her sense of safety, corrode her trust in her own perceptions, and push her to the edge of both despair and rage. For Port Charles, it would signal Peter's return as a mastermind of psychological terror, a villain capable of wounding not only bodies but also souls. While the mystery of Ryan Pavey's return and its implications for Britt grips one half of the narrative, another figure is descending into chaos on the other side of Port Charles. Drew Kane, once heralded as a man of integrity and principle, now finds himself spiraling into a darkness that he cannot escape. What began as subtle compromises and questionable choices has evolved into outright corruption, leaving him nearly unrecognizable from the man he once was. This fall will be the reckoning Drew has long delayed, and his storyline promises to be one of the most intricate detective thrillers the show has undertaken. Drew's fall from grace is not confined to himself. It spreads outward like a contagion, poisoning every relationship he touches. His ambition and desperation have made him careless, and soon, every action he takes will be scrutinized under the harsh light of suspicion. Port Charles, already a community plagued by secrets and betrayals, will find itself consumed by whispers about Drew. His allies will question their loyalties, his enemies will scent blood in the water, and those closest to him will be torn between love, fear, and self-preservation. Willow, Nina, Curtis, Portia, Carly, Sunny, Michael, and Alexis will all be drawn into the vortex, each of them standing as both potential victims of his downfall and possible suspects in the chaos that ensues. The brilliance of this storyline lies in its uncertainty. The narrative teeters constantly between the possibility of Drew's death and his survival, and both outcomes promise upheaval. Should Drew perish, the town will be plunged into a murder mystery rife with suspects and motives, each revelation peeling back another layer of deceit. Should he survive, however, his reputation will not. His involvement in attempted murders and morally bankrupt schemes will render him an outcast, a man stained by his own choices, forever altered in the eyes of Port Charles. The Drew Kane who once symbolized resilience and second chances will be gone, replaced by a figure haunted by suspicion and regret. Together, the intertwined mysteries of Britt's shattered heart and Drew's collapsing empire form the backbone of a fall season unlike any other. Both storylines are deeply personal yet universally resonant, reflecting the soap's unique ability to balance high-stakes conspiracies with intimate human struggles. Brit's journey forces her to confront the fragility of memory and love in the face of manipulation, while Drew's collapse exposes the peril of unchecked ambition and the corrosive power of secrecy. These stories will not remain confined to their protagonists. They will ripple outward, ensnaring friends, families, and even rivals, until the entire fabric of Port Charles quivers with tension. As viewers settle in for the long nights of autumn, General Hospital invites them to embrace the uncertainty, to question every smile and fear every shadow. Because in this season, nothing is as it seems. The return of a familiar face could herald salvation or destruction. A man once admired could fall so far that no redemption is possible. And as each revelation unfolds, the audience will be reminded why Port Charles is a town unlike any other place where love and betrayal walk hand in hand, and where the line between life and death is never as permanent as it appears. The long-standing feud between Sonny Corinthos and Jen Sidwell stands as one of the most dangerous undercurrents moving through Port Charles, and it promises to erupt with devastating consequences as autumn unfolds. For now, there is a tense silence, a fragile pause that may almost seem like peace to outsiders, but longtime fans of General Hospital know better. This quiet is the kind that exists only before a storm, the kind that allows both sides to gather their strength, draw up their strategies, and wait for the opportune moment to strike. The fragile balance of Port Charles has always rested on delicate truces and unspoken agreements, and the rivalry between Sonny and Sidwell threatens to obliterate those arrangements entirely. Their battle is not just about ego or vengeance. It represents a clash of empires, two powerful figures vying for control of the shadows, where influence and fear are the real currencies. The eventual explosion of this feud will be more than a simple fight between two men. It will shake the foundations of every alliance and ripple across the lives of everyone tied to their orbit. Sidwell's presence has always been defined by his cunning and ability to operate in the murky depths of corruption. And pitting him against Sonny, who has spent years solidifying his role as both protector and kingpin of Port Charles, creates a narrative that is as political as it is personal. If Sonny triumphs, it will reaffirm his dominance and ability to shield his loved ones from enemies who rise to challenge him. But if Sidwell succeeds, it could mark a catastrophic shift in the balance of power, opening the door to chaos and leaving Sonny's family more vulnerable than they have been in decades. In either scenario, the consequences will extend far beyond the two men at its center, pulling countless others into a conflict that no one can fully control. While this looming war simmers in the background, other storylines weave threads of romance, deception, and desperation. Marco Rios is one such character whose carefully concealed secrets threaten to shatter not only his life but also his relationship with Lucas Jones. What began as a romance built on trust and hope now stands on the brink of collapse, as hidden truths bubble toward the surface. Marco's deceptions, once manageable, will soon be exposed, and when that happens, the bond he shares with Lucas will be put to its most brutal test. The fallout promises to transform what was once a tender love story into a heart-wrenching tragedy, underscoring the soap's ability to shift seamlessly from passion to betrayal. For Lucas, the heartbreak of learning that the man he trusted was dishonest may reopen old wounds, reigniting feelings of loss, insecurity, and disillusionment that he had worked hard to bury. For Marco, the unmasking of his secrets will force him to confront not only Lucas's pain but also his own role in the destruction of their relationship. Meanwhile, in one of the darkest corners of Port Charles, Rick Lansing's imprisonment continues to unfold like a gothic tale of suspense and desperation. Trapped in a basement, stripped of freedom, and slowly suffocating under the weight of hopelessness, Rick's plight grows more urgent with each passing day. His yearning for escape has transformed into a singular obsession, a fire that burns hotter as the days stretch into weeks. The tragedy of Rick's situation is not just his physical captivity but the isolation that magnifies his suffering, his voice unheard, his pleas unanswered, his fate dangling by the thinnest thread. Yet even in his darkest moments, there remains a flicker of possibility. Molly Lansing Davis and Elizabeth Baldwin stand as the potential saviors who could bring light into the suffocating darkness. Their quest to uncover the truth, to follow the threads of mystery that might lead to Rick's rescue, introduces an element of hope into an otherwise bleak narrative. But salvation comes at a price, and if Rick's captivity is ever revealed to the wider world, the repercussions will be seismic. Alexis Davis, Christina Corinthos Davis, and Eva Jeremiel, women connected to Rick in complicated and personal ways, would find themselves ensnared in the fallout. Questions would arise not just about who imprisoned Rick, but about who knew, who failed to act, and who must bear responsibility for the torment he endured. For Alexis, already a figure who carries the burden of family history and past mistakes, such revelations could jeopardize her fragile stability. Christina, perpetually caught between the legacies of those she loves and the mistakes of those same people, would be forced to confront another moral crisis. Eva, ever the complicated figure of survival and guilt, would once again be dragged into the vortex of blame and suspicion. Together, these stories, Sunny's looming war with Sidwell, Marco and Lucas's collapsing romance, and Rick's haunting captivity, paint a picture of a Port Charles where love, power, and survival are inextricably bound together. Each thread is steeped in suspense and emotion, weaving a broader tapestry of a community forever on the brink of collapse. The conflicts of this season are not isolated, they are interconnected, ensuring that as one story erupts, it spills into the others, binding every character in a web of consequence. For the viewers, this interconnectedness creates a sense of inevitability, that no matter where you turn in Port Charles, danger lurks, secrets fester, and the choices of one person can unravel the lives of many. The fall season of General Hospital is more than just a continuation of ongoing plots. It is the moment where multiple storylines collide, transform, and expand into a larger, interconnected saga that defines the tone of Port Charles for months ahead. As summer's flames dim, the narrative fire of autumn begins to blaze, illuminating every hidden corner of the town with revelations that are as haunting as they are heartbreaking. This is not merely a transitional arc, it is a season of reckoning, one that threads together conspiracies, family struggles, and long-awaited confrontations, while weaving them through the rich texture of seasonal festivities like Halloween and Thanksgiving. The interplay of fear and festivity, betrayal and belonging, makes this season one of the most dynamic in recent memory. At the heart of the fall lies the long-anticipated clash between Sunny Corinthos and Jen Sidwell, a feud that has been simmering beneath the surface, concealed by moments of uneasy calm but destined to erupt. To the casual eye, the truce between these two men might suggest stability, yet those who know Port Charles understand that calm is always the prelude to chaos. Both Sunny and Sidwell are strategists, men who command loyalty, fear, and power. They are cut from the same cloth, though their methods diverge. Sunny wields influence through a mix of intimidation and paternal loyalty, while Sidwell thrives in the shadows, cloaking his moves in layers of manipulation and deceit. Their conflict is not merely personal, it is emblematic of two empires colliding. When the balance finally breaks, the aftermath will ripple through the entire town, altering alliances, toppling fragile truces, and leaving every family exposed to the fallout of a war fought in the dark. Parallel to this battle of titans are the intimate tragedies unfolding in quieter corners of Port Charles. Marco Rios and Lucas Jones, whose romance once promised stability and warmth, are teetering on the edge of collapse. Marco's carefully guarded secrets cannot remain hidden forever, and when they are exposed, the revelation will not simply dissolve their love, it will twist it into a tragedy marked by betrayal. For Lucas, who has endured heartbreak before, the discovery that the man he trusted most has deceived him will feel like a cruel repetition of history. The unraveling of their relationship speaks to a broader theme running through the fall season. Love in Port Charles is never safe, always shadowed by lies and the ghosts of past mistakes. What makes this arc so compelling is the inevitability of its collapse. The audience, aware of Marco's secrets, watches with dread as the truth inches closer to the surface, knowing that the destruction of this relationship is not a question of if but when. Meanwhile, in one of the darkest storylines of the season, Rick Lansing remains imprisoned in a basement, his captivity stretching into an ordeal of physical confinement and psychological torment. Each passing day chips away at his hope while simultaneously sharpening his desperation. Rick's need for freedom has become an obsession, fueling his will to survive even as despair threatens to consume him. Yet even in this bleakest of narratives, there is a spark of hope. Molly Lansing Davis and Elizabeth Baldwin. These two women hold the keys, figuratively and perhaps literally, in uncovering Rick's plight. Their determination to search for answers, to follow breadcrumbs others overlook, casts them as potential saviors in a storyline otherwise steeped in shadows. But the question remains, what happens if Rick's captivity becomes known to the wider world? The consequences would be staggering. Alexis Davis, Christina Corinthos Davis, and Ava Jerome would find themselves pulled into a whirlpool of blame and suspicion. Their connections to Rick would force them to confront truths about loyalty, culpability, and the limits of family devotion. For Alexis, this crisis could reopen old wounds and test her fragile sense of stability. For Christina, it could deepen her ongoing struggle with identity and morality. For Ava, it would again blur the lines between survival and complicity, pushing her further into the gray spaces she so often inhabits. Layered atop these stories are the seasonal festivities that provide contrast and context. Halloween, always an event in Port Charles, will take on new significance this year. The town will don its masks, but beneath the costumes lie deeper deceptions, secrets poised to spill out under the cover of festivity. It is the perfect backdrop for betrayals to be revealed, for characters to expose their darker sides, and for long-hidden truths to creep into the open. The eerie, uncanny atmosphere of Halloween magnifies the existing tension, making every shadow feel more dangerous, every disguise more threatening. It is a holiday designed to unsettle, and in Port Charles, it becomes a stage for unmasking not just of costumes, but of motives and secrets. In contrast, Thanksgiving will bring the pendulum swinging back toward warmth, unity, and reflection. The holiday offers a pause, however brief, for families to gather, share gratitude, and momentarily forget the chaos surrounding them. Yet even this reprieve carries undercurrents of tension. Around the Quartermain table, where tradition and dysfunction meet in equal measure, long-standing disputes and new revelations collide. For Brooklyn and Dante, the season represents more than a holiday. It is a chance to solidify their bond as they look toward a future together with Giovanni Joe Palmieri. Their storyline provides an anchor of hope amid the storm, a reminder that love can endure even when surrounded by betrayal and suspicion. But the fragility of that hope is never forgotten. Viewers know that in Port Charles, moments of happiness are fleeting, often shattered by the next revelation or confrontation. What makes this fall season so powerful is the way each storyline complements the others. The grand feud between Sonny and Sidwell underscores the fragility of power, while Marco and Lucas's heartbreak reflects the fragility of trust. Rick's captivity highlights the fragility of freedom, and the holiday arcs illuminate the fragility of happiness. These stories are not isolated, they intersect, echo, and amplify one another, creating a unified tapestry of suspense and emotion. Every episode becomes a piece of a larger puzzle, where one revelation in a basement can alter the dynamics of a family dinner, and one feud in the shadows can destroy a romance in the light. For the audience, this interconnectedness heightens the stakes. Missing a single episode risks losing the thread of a grand design in motion, where the writers weave together personal pain and political power into a seamless whole. It is a season designed to reward attentiveness, to invite speculation, and to keep viewers perched on the edge of anticipation. Each storyline contains within it the potential for a shock that could redefine the landscape of Port Charles, and each shock feeds into the larger sense of inevitability that everything is connected, and nothing happens in isolation. In the end, this fall season captures everything that defines General Hospital. It is about love and loss, about ambition and betrayal, about the masks people wear and the truths that shatter them. It is about finding warmth at a family table even as shadows gather at the edges of the room. It is about the return of faces thought gone, the collapse of lives thought secure, and the resilience of a community that continues to endure despite being perpetually on the brink of disaster. It is a season that promises both spectacle and intimacy, reminding audiences why Port Charles remains one of the most compelling fictional towns in television history.